All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Talking SaaSy. I'm Kareen Say, and I couldn't be more excited to kick things off with you today. On this show, we're diving deep into the real strategies and stories behind SaaS growth. Now, it's not just about tactics, it's about the people, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. A whole lot of everything in between, I have to say. And honestly, what better way to start talking SaaSy than with a team from Inturact, a boutique data science-backed growth agency for founder-led SaaS. I've brought onto the show folks who not only are they as brave as me in doing this live for the very first time, these are the folks who have been in the SaaS trenches, rolling up the sleeves, making things happen. And I've had the privilege of working alongside them. Today, I get to share their wisdom with you. So first up, we have Joshua Waldman, Interact's Director of Client Services and COO. Joshua is an entrepreneur, a product leader, and investor. He's been in the game for over 13 years. He's got 2 successful exits under his belt. He runs Inturact Capital, a PE fund, and if that's not enough, he's even written a For Dummies book and contributes to Forbes and HuffPost. Next, we have Tony Steen, one of our incredibly wise account managers. Tony's one of those rare people who blends creativity and analytics effortlessly. With experience in 4 startups, Tony has this unique ability to bring together engineering, data, design, product, and marketing to create real impact for both customers and businesses. And last but definitely not least, we've got Ari Benkuya. I personally like to call him our go-to AI growth consultant. He does take things to another level. As a serial entrepreneur and Ari's been the partner in incubators and accelerators. He's brilliant at breaking down complex problems and business models, helping startups hit growth milestones and solve the toughest challenges. So I'm really excited to have them all in the studio with me to share their stories, their perspectives. We'll be diving deep into their thoughts on growth. We'll be learning from their consulting experiences and figuring out what makes a strategy truly SaaSy. So let's jump right into it. Our first conversation is with Joshua Waldman. Let me bring him on to the show. Hi, Joshua.
Hi, Kareen. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, could kick things off. Can you share a little bit about your journey into SaaS and the defining moment that made you passionate about this field?
Yeah, it's kind of a roundabout story, as sometimes these things are. A friend of mine in Portland was running a accounting SaaS product out of a WeWork back in those days, and I wanted to kind of help them out a little bit on their marketing. I was doing some social media marketing work, some digital work for them, and in that experience, I started to see how really fun it was to have a tangible product. I had written a book. I had information products out there. I'm sort of that info product generation of internet marketers. But with something tangible, you log into it. It has a logo. You come back to it. It helps your life. It was really cool. Like, I want to do that. I want to run a tangible thing. And so I had the opportunity to actually take over the CEO role of this product, this SaaS product. It was headquartered out of Denmark, and they were trying to get into the US market, and loved it. It was so much fun building a team, thinking about products, feature, voice of customer, job speed, and all this stuff sort of started to solidify. And that's how I got into the SaaS world. This was probably definitely pre-COVID. Sometime before, probably about 7 or 8 years ago.
That's awesome. I know that you've had a very diverse career, Joshua. Not only that, you've also been, an investor, right, on top of being an entrepreneur and a product leader in SaaS. I'm curious to hear, though, how have these roles and your personal quirks shaped your approach to SaaS, to business, to growth?
I was thinking about this the other day when you sent the questions over. So when I was writing the For Dummy book, um, I visualized, so the way they train their authors is to just, I mean, okay, not write for the dumbest person in the room, but to kind of like think about it in its smallest possible, take a complicated idea, like, I don't know, permaculture, and break it down into 15 chapters that's going to have 10 sections that's going to be bulleted, and to just think through big ideas in very tiny, in its tiniest particle. And then when I was writing the actual copy, I was visualizing people in my life who maybe wouldn't easily understand the idea, and so how do I explain it really clearly for the reader? And I realized the other day that almost all of my writing is pulling from that experience of writing the For Dummies book, to try to be clear, concise, and yeah, kind of like a For Dummies book.
Yeah, no, I certainly can say that I benefited from your approach because working with you long enough, I see how you're really good at, using analogies to describe things and to really show, what you mean. It makes it so much easier for someone like you who may not be so technical to really get it, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's certainly, I mean, no shame in publishing For Dummies and no shame in my reading it. I love it. So there you go. Um, well, I do want to talk a little bit about, your perspective from an agency standpoint on growth, right? About choosing the right partner. One of the many things actually that I love about Inturact is your boutique approach. But really, let's start off with a light question. What's the most unusual or humorous thing a client has said about what they want from a growth agency?
Um, I think the funniest thing I've ever heard is, um, we were talking with a prospective client, and they just flat out asked, "Are you guys a fraud?" And I was like, "Okay, this is like that riddle where you have one of them is the liar, and you have to figure out which one." I'm like, "All right, if I say no, that's what a fraudster would say. If I said yes, then I'm a fraudster." So what exactly, how do I handle? It was a really funny moment, and I was just like dead silent on the other end of the line, and he's like, "Well," and I'm like, "I really have no idea how to answer that question."
Did you come up with a response, or did you leave him hanging?
I just told him my thinking. I said, "Look, if I say yes, we can end the call right now. Do you want me to say yes?"
That's awesome. I'm sure you've got more stories like that down the road. But I kind of based on your experience overall, want to hear a little bit more about how you think SaaS founders should consider when selecting a growth partner. I mean, I guess looking through their fraud credibility or not, the fraud background could be a start. But is there
Yeah.
anything else?
Yeah, besides them not being fraudsters on
Exactly.
Reddit. Um, yeah, one of the things we'll probably talk about more on this topic later, but um, growth doesn't mean acquisition, right? Like when people look for growth partners,
Mm,
there's this misconception that, oh, that just means throwing more money at a paid channel. And I think they're really missing the mark. In fact, when we do our Reforge training, growth always starts with retention, and it makes sense with a recurring revenue business model. If your cost of acquisition is high and people are coming in through it's very expensive to acquire new customers. But if they're not sticking, the metaphor of the sieve starts to come into play. So growth for me always starts with, what's your churn like?
mm,
Even though like a client might say, hey, we want growth, write our blog for us. And so my next question is, cool, we can do that. And tell me a little bit about how customers are sticking around. Because sometimes that can open up some deeper, more strategic conversations, and actually have more meaningful business results.
Yeah, that's I love that how you're flipping the conversation around, right? Because usually people, when you're right, when they talk about growth, is, hey, I need someone to do my paid ads, but no, let's start with your churn. So that's certainly a big learning moment for me too. Um, let's talk a little bit about scaling growth now that we've covered the churn piece. What do you think founders should keep in mind when scaling the growth, especially from your perspective as a COO and an investor?
I think there's a nuance to working with growth. Sometimes we call it founderitis. Myself as a founder and as an investor, I get it. It's your baby, and it can be really difficult to let other people make decisions or interpret your ideas differently.
Mm.
There's the classic cartoon of the startup founder, was asked, "Have you talked to your market?" And they say, "Yeah, I called my mom, and she thinks we should have a rotary phone option for our dating app." Like it depends. You have to listen to your market, and sometimes you're not going to feel comfortable with what they have to say to you. And I think that's probably a root cause of a lot of companies just not having market research done. There's a little bit of a fear,
Mm.
I think, from founders. I don't really want to know what people are going to say. We might have to totally shift our positioning or our strategy, or something different is going to come out of this
Yeah.
that I'm not prepared to let go of.
Mm.
And that's why companies sell. Like, a founder might be really good at 0 to 0.5, but taking it from 0.5 to 1 or to 2 might be a different personality or skill set.
Wow, that's that's certainly very profound. I feel like there's a blog post in there somewhere. So, um, can you share maybe a bit of a creative or a very unconventional tactic that you've seen work exceptionally well?
Yeah, I'm going to tip a sacred cow. So everyone's talking about product led, product led, product led. But not every product needs to be or should be product led. And we actually had a client who hired us to do product led. And we tried 3 times and it did not work. And then we finally, went to the market and understood from the voice of the customer, people actually want to talk to us in this particular market. People really like talking to a salesperson, and they really like having their hand held. They really like that personal touch.
Mm.
And we went all in sales led. We said, look, we're not doing free trials. We're not publishing our pricing. We're going full on sales led here. It's like everything is going to go through the sales team, everything. And we grew their revenue at a faster rate this year. We've been working with this client for 4 or 5 years, and
Wow.
we saw the best revenue year so far, just by going all in and really understanding what the market context is.
This is so awesome. These are like these are the stories that should be told more often. Because to your point, it's so loud, right? Product led, and no one wants to talk to sales anymore. But here you go. You just validated 2 points that number one, customer research is still really important, right? It's not your voice or my voice, it's the voice of the customer that makes it or breaks it for you. And number two, people still want to be handheld, that human touch. So, yeah. Thanks, Joshua. This has been really insightful. I've certainly learned a lot from you on how to run an operation, more about SaaS growth, looking at things more holistically. And I'm sure our audience appreciates your insights as well. So now I want to give you a break. Go grab coffee. And I do want to bring on my next guest, Tony. So I think at this point, I'm just going to boot you out of the studio. Ciao. Okay. Tony, hi, good morning.
Morning. This is going so well for our first rodeo. Love
Are
it.
you loving it?
Yeah.
It's a little early for you, or are you good?
Oh, you know me. I'm up at 5:30. So we're good to go, but I love it. We got a new template that's like cleaned up. I'm digging it. It's good.
Awesome. Well, I love your spark. So why don't we start off with your sharing a little bit about you, what sparked your interest in SaaS?
Well, let's see what sparked my interest in SaaS. I would say, candidly, my previous life, I was a professional big mountain ski guide who traveled around the world. And I love traveling around the world. I had 4 bags, but I didn't make any money. So I was trying to figure out, this was about 10 years ago, I was trying to figure out what job I could make a little money and still travel around the world. And at that time, pre-COVID, like remote work was only in one industry. It was in tech, right? And so I moved to San Francisco, didn't have a job contact. I did door-to-door selling, like with those, I was one of those annoying people on the streets of San Francisco asking you to donate for kids, stuff like that. But I eventually broke into tech, and what I liked about it actually is it's a cool business model. I like business model because this is really nerdy stuff, but I like that there's almost no like variable cost to this business to deliver to it. So if you can get it right up front, right, which is expensive, building software is expensive, although it's getting cheaper, and you get it right, you can have a really, really profitable business that scales really, really well. And that kind of just fascinates me. So that's how I got into it. It was remote work and powerful business model.
You are a mysterious man.
Thank you.
But let's keep going. So
Okay.
with your experience with, growing businesses, growing startups, and you mentioned nerdy early on, but I think, there's definitely a lot of value, and I can see how that comes out in your work, right? You've blended various frameworks together, which was, wow, okay, this is Tony. This is why he is who he is. I'd certainly be curious to hear what are some of your most unconventional strategies that you've successfully implemented? And because I know you're also very like a self-accountable, big capacity for learning, what did it teach you?
Okay, Joshua, we had these questions, right? But we didn't know what everyone was going to say. Joshua took mine, and in the form of listening or market research. Now, that's not unconventional, right? I just think it's uncommon. The challenge is usually, as I scratch my head, usually when people show up, there's something not going exactly right with the business. So something's wrong, right? And usually the only people who have the answers are the people in the market. It's not inside. It's because if the answer was inside the business we're helping, there would be no problem. So you have to go outside to find the right answer. And so I think listening is actually the most important thing. And the really changed my mind. My background's in psychology. I got a degree in psychology. I've been fascinated by all the tricks, hacks, all the persuasion, all that stuff. But the book that really changed it for me was Bob Modesta of Jobs to Be Done, infamy. He has a book called Demand Side Sales. And basically he said, listen, if you know what questions people are asking at every phase of their journey as a prospect, you don't have to do any tricks. You just got to answer the question. That's it. And so that kind of changed the way I think about sales and marketing in many ways. So it's not unconventional, but I do think it's uncommon, is keep it simple, talk to the people. The answer is likely outside the building. And that's my thinking around those strategies.
Yeah, that's really good. Just good old unconventional, uncommon wisdom, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like we are always the ones that get in the way of ourselves,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I like that.
I always think I have all the answers. I think I'm so damn smart, and the reality is really not. I just got to check my ego constantly and get out there and find out the real answer.
Right. Well, you're a good learner too, so there you go. now I actually want to talk about building effective partnerships. I know I've sat in countless client meetings with you, and I've always admired how you've masterfully navigated client requests and some of these questions out of left field. So what I really want to know, and I'm sure our audience would also appreciate this, is what's your secret to establishing and maintaining client relationships?
I can't tell you. It's a longer secret. No, let's see. It is just being candid. And it sounds so easy to do. I actually learned this from a client before. As a consultant and professional service provider, for a long time, I thought my job was to be the smartest guy in the room. One, I'm just average intelligence is really what it comes down to. But I'm always thirsty for learning, right? I think that's my edge. I'm always wanting to learn. But like it's on the IQ level, I'm like average or slightly above average or below it. Like, so it's there's nothing important there. But the secret I found out from a client was, here was a guy, he was in a not sexy business, but he was willing to look stupid in front of everyone all the time, constantly. He was running, but he was running he was hitting pretty big annual revenue numbers. And it dawned on me that the way he's gotten to the top is he's willing to ask dumb questions, look stupid, learn, and be candid. So that's how I think I think most clients, what they really want is someone who is modest, candid, and transparent. That's what I really, so I'm always trying to, that's what I'm trying to deliver. So that's what I think the secret is. A good example of that lately is I've done a lot of product-led SaaS companies. I've worked with a lot of product-led SaaS companies, or I've been involved with them. So something that's new for me is trying to help people who are, like Joshua said, maybe doing more conventional sales and or data as well. Like I know enough about data to understand what we should do. But when it really gets into the intricacies of data science and setting all that up, that's all very new for me. But I'm willing to ask the question and make it clear that, I don't have an answer right now. I'm going to go get it. We got a data scientist, and then we come back and we work through it. So I think people will appreciate that, because the other thing I think is that most people can tell when you're bullshitting them. They really can. Anyone's remotely emotionally intelligent, they can tell when you're full of shit. So just tell the truth, and then they get trust. And then once you got trust, you're off to the races.
I love that, because I do have a fear of looking stupid, but it sounds like it's okay, right? As long as we are transparent. So I'm gonna work hard on living up to that.
I love it. Asking questions is it's nerve-wracking. I hate it, but I'm trying to get better at it.
I think one of the beautiful traits of all of us working together is all of us are so different, but I feel like we're all learning from one another, and I don't feel I let my guard down when I'm with y'all, asking the stupidest questions, and you're so patient with me. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah. You're way better. I know I'm interrupting you right now, and I always talk.
No, go for it.
But one thing, Kareen, I can learn a lot from you on the really high level. High level is not the right word. Very effective marketing tactics and specifics and details. I can tell I can learn a lot from you on that end. So, and also with Ari, and then with Joshua, that I'll be able to. You're going to meet Ari here in a minute, but with Joshua, his product chops are way higher than mine. So I'm learning from him. So we got a good team, and learning, like I said, I love to learn. So I'm with good people.
Yeah, no, me too. Before we turn this into a mutual appreciation club,
All right.
I actually have one more final question for you, Tony. Before I I don't have a better word for this, boot you off the studio. And I'm asking this because I really want to hear from you. How do you manage mismatched expectations between you and your clients?
Okay, this is a good question, and I'm going to go ahead and say that you really shouldn't be managing expectations, which I think is most professional services people, or consultants or agencies, or go, what? And the reason is this: expectations can be implicit or explicit, but if you manage agreements, which are who, what, when, where, right? Then there's no implicitness in it. It's very explicit, and then you get to have very candid conversations around it. So, like, I'll give you an example. Positioning is a big thing in the marketing world. It's kind of a nebulous topic, but what an idea around positioning is: what implicit expectations do people have if you tell them, for instance, you're a CRM, right? People automatically come up with ideas about what functionality, what it'll look like, all those things. It's implicit, it's not explicit. So what I'm saying is, if you go in and someone has wrong expectations, go ahead, find out what they are, but then pivot more towards agreements. And it has the who, what, and when part of it. And then it just changes the nature of the conversations. There's a lot more accountability. There is a lot more, if things don't happen, it isn't unclear. And I'm trying to do a better job of that. Sometimes I find myself trying to skate around a deadline or whatever, but anymore, if I don't have someone asks me for something that doesn't have a date attached to it or anything like that, I kind of think of it as a nice to have, and you're kind of just be explicit with it, and everyone will be clear, and then we can talk about whether we make the agreement or not. We hit the deadline and we deliver on what we said we would do. So that's how I think about expectations these days. I understand it's very common in the consulting and agency world, and just in the world in general, but I'm trying to pivot to thinking about it in a different way.
There's certainly a lot to unpack that. I love it. Managing agreements, like having handshakes and being transparent. I think that's that seems to be the theme in my conversation with you, Tony. And I feel like there's so much more I can uncover with you, but our time is short. So I know I have to pause you for now, and someone give me a better word for boot you off stage. It sounds really rude, but that's the only thing that's coming to me right now.
Give me the hook. You can give me the hook, like the old timey. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, I'll just double wink at you, like, get off now. And right. I will remove you. Thank you. Bye. And I'm going to turn things over to our last but not least guest, Ari, adding you to the stage now.
Hello.
Hello, Ari. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Istanbul. I'm in my house, my whatever attic room, multi-purpose area.
I love it though. Every time we talk about, oh, Turkey this, Turkey, I'm like, I need coffee. So,
we always all need coffee.
We all do need coffee. Now, before we get further, tell us about your SaaS journey. What led you to commit yourself to this field?
It was inevitable. I don't know. I grew up in the Silicon Valley, so I've always been around tech and startups and that kind of stuff. I mean, I've been around it. I didn't realize what they were until well into my first job. So, for me, it was working with startups was something I always wanted to do because I enjoyed being kind of like effective in a small organization. And so I worked for a retail company. So it was a startup retail company. It had nothing to do with technology. And I very quickly knew that I wanted to get back into technology. And so found my way into tech, found my way into startups. and just kind of enjoyed the idea of SaaS. Let's say, I fell ass backwards, as it's called, into entrepreneurship, running a B2B SaaS company, and have just been doing SaaS ever since. And then in terms of consulting, I very quickly realized while running my own company that I preferred to talk about other people's companies as opposed to running my own, because there's a joy in solving problems for me, right?
Yeah.
I've been mentoring a lot of startups for the past 3
Yeah.
years, and it kind of leads to consulting and the idea of, some people do Sudoku in their spare time. I find it fun to try to solve startups, if that makes sense.
Oh, I can
Right?
totally tell
Every
that.
startup has a growth path that is different, and so it's interesting to figure out, what's not working, right? As Tony mentioned, right? It's like if the growth is not happening, like there's something's wrong, right? Sometimes it's in the product, sometimes it's the way you're selling it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's what brought me here.
I love that the gears are always moving. I can see it when you talk. It's like the thought factory is on overdrive. But yeah, strategic consulting. So you want to dive into that a little bit, because you work with so many growth companies. I'd be curious to hear from you. How do you think SaaS companies, especially at their early stage, how should they think about tailoring their strategies to align with their unique needs at that stage of their growth?
Yeah. I mean, there's really two things in terms of growth. Number one, you have to get the product right? I mean, Joshua mentioned it, Tony mentioned it, and I'm going to mention it, right? But it's that retention piece is number one. It's what are you solving and who are you solving it for? Like if you're at the 0 to 1 stage, you need to be solving a real problem. If you're not solving a real problem, ultimately nobody's going to buy your product because either they're solving it some other way or whatever. And it doesn't matter how you solve it. A friend of mine used to use the idea of what we call the squirrels, right? It's like you push a button on a web page. I don't care if a squirrel sends a message to a chain of squirrels and then gets you the response back. As long as the response back is what you're looking for, right? Nobody cares about how you did it. They don't care if you used Python or AI
Right.
or what Excel. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, you just have to get the job done, right? So jobs to be done, right? It starts there, right? And then once you're able to kind of identify what you're doing and how you're providing value to people, then the next question becomes an idea of what I call it's founder channel fit, right? You have to find your first growth channel. And not all founders are meant to be doing podcasts or meant to be doing blogs or meant to be doing, PPC, for example. But every founder kind of has that skill that they are good at, and you have to be able to build your company around that. So, if you're good at networking, then, how do you take networking digital and do networking at scale? If you're not so good at promoting yourself, then, how do you put yourself behind the curtain, but maybe potentially, build other things? And so once you have that value piece, then it's about the first channel. And then after that, it's like music, right? In music, first you start with the beat, and then you start with the guitar, and then you start with the vocals or whatever, right? It's like you layer on top of it every single kind of growth channel that you put
Right.
as you grow and you have more resources.
But start with your niche where you're really powerful at.
Yep.
So as a former incubator partner, Ari, what's the one key lesson that you've learned about scaling startups that you think is often overlooked?
Yeah, it's the idea of niching down, right? Like you can't be someone to everybody. Like I get that, one of the, in terms of, SaaS, there's always hey, let's go get investment, right? And one of the questions is who's going to use your product, right? And it seems important to be able to say, the more people who use your product, the bigger your market, then, the bigger your company's going to be, right? So you want to put as many people down as possible, in a sense. This is not the case. Just pick one or two, maybe, personas. And even with those personas, one of them is going to be a better idea, right? So, Tony talks about positioning. That's kind of what positioning is. It's who are you selling to? And the more narrow that who is, it matters, right? And, Amazon started with books, right? They didn't start with the world, which is what they sell now. They started with books. They picked one thing and they got really good at it. And they got really good at all the things around it. And then they started scaling on. So just like marketing, just like channel, it start with one, because you just don't have the resources to do that much.
Exactly.
Right. And so the problem that you see with founders who are not succeeding is trying to be everyone to, something to everyone. And I've seen it. Like I've seen a company, don't get me wrong, they're not successful, right? I've seen a company that, was able to sell their product across industry in a certain market, right? Which is fine. because then you're if you think about niching down, it's hey, it's Turkey specifically, right? But it's like, hey, we can do this for companies in Turkey.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden they had trouble kind of going overseas because the Turkish market wasn't enough for their growth and enough to handle kind of all the costs that they had. And it was like, so how do I go overseas? Well, you can't go overseas saying I do banking and fintech and ISPs and this and that and the other. So figure out which one you do best and which one is the best one for you.
Yeah.
And double down on that, and then just kind of move your positioning into that space. And then when you're going overseas, you have a niche to go down. And so it's I still have not found a better metaphor for this, but it's the idea of, using a sniper shot instead of using a shotgun, right? You're just more likely to get the job done if you're using a sniper, and you only have so many resources. So you want to make sure that everything, your marketing, your positioning, your page, your product building, everything is going in the same direction.
Yeah. Absolutely. It certainly takes a lot of discipline, right, to stay niche and to focus on one thing. And it's so hard to say no on, to all the other potential opportunities. But to your point, it really, really, you get so much more out of it than trying to be everything to everybody. So I really want to ask you this question because I know you're super passionate about this. It's AI. And I personally love to see how you bring miracles after miracles through AI to work. So how do you think AI will shape your approach to consulting, to how you think about business, to growth, to SaaS?
Yeah. I think one of the things, and again, right, it's the idea of Sudoku or startups or whatever. One of the things that I really like is asking questions, right? It's asking the right questions. And the thing about generative AI that I kind of figured out over the years is that generative AI is useless when you ask the wrong questions and very useful when you ask the right questions, right? And so as I started to realize that you can ask better questions to generative AI, right? Then I started realizing that you can give it data and then ask questions on that data. So the way that it really helps me is it allows me to do a lot of qualitative, it's qualitative analysis at scale without having to I'm going to say put in the time to do that qualitative analysis. And so just, the example from last week is we had 2 years worth of, company demo requests that I just put into generative AI. It was 750 different requests from companies. And there was the form field that said, why do you want to talk to us today? Analyzing that in like a quantitative way would have taken hours. But I dumped it into generative AI, dumped it into Claude, and I just started asking questions. Hey, answer me questions about this data set. And I was able to get some really valuable data very, very quickly. And so it's not, from what I see so far, is that AI doesn't know how to ask the right questions. You have to show it how to ask the right questions. But if you ask them the right way, it will give you very good answers. And so it's the same, 20 years ago, when Google first came out, it was like, you have to know how to search. Like knowing how to search is a big part of getting Google to work for you correctly. Right. And that's what AI is doing, at least the, ChatGPT side of things is doing for us now.
I know you're running ahead, but I wonder if your other job could be an interrogator.
I have no idea. I've never thought about it.
I don't know, but I'm kind of like suspicious now. But I love what you did last week with the demo request, and I certainly would love for you to write it up, and share your AI wisdom with the world. It was just so eye-opening, Ari. So use AI to help you with that. You've got a lot to offer.
Figure out how to make AI help me make LinkedIn posts better.
Absolutely. All right. So we've run out of time here with our segment, Ari. We do need to wrap up, and I would like to bring the rest of the crew back to the studio. I'm not booting you off the studio.
All right.
Bring people back in here. So let me see if I can do this right. Okay. Tony and Joshua. Hi, guys. Welcome back.
Hello, hello.
How do you like this layout? Should I change it or stick with it?
It's good. It's good. Nice.
Yeah, this is fine. Okay, cool. All right. So we're all back here, but we're all here together now. And I do want us to zoom out a little and turn our gaze towards the future. Right. Let's talk about trends. Ready? we'll make this an open mic session. So whoever. First question here. What's the one emerging trend that SaaS companies should focus on right now? Who wants this? Come on, guys.
Who's gonna say it? Who's gonna say it?
I'll take. I think there's going to be a lot of AI search is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it comes from me liking AI. Maybe it comes from Interact's background as doing SEO very well. But that's going to be the next green field, at least, right? And what we see is there's lots of different trends that happen, and trends die faster than they used to. Basically, right? SEO has been going on for 20 years at this point, and is finally coming to a change. Let's say it's pivoting, but nothing ever goes away, right? Like, people are still doing mailings and being successful. There's still people in the United States who use AOL, like dial-up, to get on the internet. Like, nothing dies forever, right? But the green field is where you get the most bang for your buck. So I'm gonna go with search AI.
Search AI, yeah. Search AI to help you find what you need. I've been using tools like Perplexity almost exclusively now. I don't use Google anymore because to find an answer on Google, you have to kind of click through and bounce off and try the search again, or go to a few pages. With an AI search assistant, you get an answer immediately. It does that for you. I
don't want to count chickens before they hatch, but we did have our AI search moment, did we, Joshua?
We did. We got found. Somebody asked ChatGPT for a list of SaaS growth agencies, and we were there. And that was pretty dope.
Oh my gosh, so exciting!
Yeah.
Tony, sorry to pick on you, but any thoughts on what an emerging trend in SaaS would be?
Oh, I think data science is the place to be. It underpins AI. So, and then obviously this is going to be an area where pretty soon, I don't even think people are going to talk about their product as AI. I think it's going to be an expected situation. And so we see as a lot of people are building out their data science teams, and as everything gets connected. So I think, and piping data from all kinds of different sources, and I think that's the trend to hop on board for sure. There's no great secret there, but building out data science teams.
Amazing. So much more to unpack. The AI, data science. What else?
Yeah.
I want to add one more idea, which is kind of coming up a lot. And it's the idea of a developer helping you with your marketing. Right now, product organizations are really siloed. You have product and sales, marketing, and dev. But there are so many opportunities to bring a good developer into a marketing conversation. Like, could we build a mini app, a little taste of our value as a way to acquire customers? I think if a marketing department had a really smart developer, you could unlock some pretty cool stuff. That it doesn't have anything to do with the product itself, but can also find innovative ways to demonstrate the positioning or the value that the product eventually could offer a prospect.
Amazing. How do you think that would apply in a service industry like ours? Like, do you see mini clones of us running around, or like an Kareen light, Joshua light, Tony light, Ari light?
There was that. We watched a webinar with a sales guy, and he made an AI bot of himself, and he tried to sell himself 6 cents. And
Adam Robertson.
I've seen founders do this too, where they create a bot they take all of their writing and blog posts and stick it in and train their AI, and basically, if someone asks them a question, they say, "Did you ask my robot first?" I mean, these are cute, but I think that there's a deeper change at hand, not just sort of thwarting and efficiency gains, but I think there's actual value that can be had. For example, we do this for a living. We know what the benchmarks are. We can quickly look at a chart or data and know what the problem is. Could we turn that into a calculator or a plugin, in a HubSpot plugin that says, click run, and it looks at your HubSpot data, and it's just sort of our brain saying, you got five major issues, and you should tackle these in this order. Where you're actually helping people do their work better.
Awesome. So on the flip side, what do you think an emerging trend that's overhyped, and why? Anybody?
Joshua hit on it, I think, in his piece of PLG. Like, PLG is great, but I started seeing decks from entrepreneurs in idea stage that were like, and we want to do this PLG, and I was like, why? Like, there's no need to do it PLG, but they felt like that was the buzz. It was like, PLG, AI, I need to have these buzzwords in my deck to get investment. And it's just like, you just need to have a market and a thing to sell people, and I don't care how you sell it, right? Again, I don't care if it's squirrels, right? Like, squirrels can come and sell you the product and deliver your Girl Scout cookies, whatever. As long as you get the Girl Scout cookies, it doesn't matter if it's coming from young adolescents or from animals. Just want to eat cookies.
So death to PLG, Ari?
No, that PLG has a place. Again, like, just because something's overhyped doesn't mean it's bad, right?
You just say nothing dies. You're right. Yeah.
There's a place for everything.
That's true. I did not hear very well just now, but I do remember you said nothing dies. You're right. All right. Anyone else? Any other trends that's overhyped?
I would say, like, anything we say could be accused of being overhyped. Like, if we say data science, someone could say, yeah. If we say jobs to be done, someone over there is going to be like, yeah. I've been hearing that since the 70s. There's pendulums swinging all over the place in what we do, and what we're trying to figure out is what's the best tool for its application. We're constantly retooling, and that's something that we have to be really rational about. What works and what doesn't work, and what's its context, to know when to use it. I think it's just really important not to get shiny object syndrome and jump on bandwagons. The story of the mule, the old man, his son, and the mule. Whatever configuration of those three happens through your village, they're always going to get criticized.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day, they're just trying to get to the market.
Yep, great. This is an oddball question, but I don't know. Do you guys want to give it a try? It's about the SaaS landscape. How might it evolve in a way that surprises everyone? That's not the oddball. The oddball question is, how would you capture this in the meme? Feel free to say, nah, skip. We're coming up to the end of the show anyway. We're going to wrap it up.
We got 12 minutes. We got to figure out the meme that's going up.
Your choice.
There's talk, and I haven't seen it yet, right? But there's talk that the monthly subscription fee is going to go slowly by the wayside, as too many companies are faced with too much subscription bloat and like product bloat, right? I personally am using like 3 different tools at this point, right? And that's not even to say how many Inturact uses as a company, right? And paying monthly for stuff all the time is going to start getting disrupted, right? By kind of pay-as-you-go stuff seems to be coming up. It's going to cause huge problems in terms of, it's going to cause huge problems in terms of, retention and making sure that you have a good product so that people can pay as you go all the time, right? Products that have less frequency are less likely to go monthly payment. And if you want to meme it, right, it's the guy holding his girlfriend, and the guy would be the client in this case, right? And his girlfriend at that point would be monthly subscriptions, and then the girl that he's looking at behind him, that's going to be pay as you go.
Oh,
so
I know.
Meme. I've memed it.
Yeah. Nailed it.
I think, let's see, how I think it's going to evolve. Okay. So if AI is doing a lot of work, and let's say you're paying for a piece of software that is the way you are charged is based on, let's just say like API calls or something like that. There's the idea of like the paradox of automation. You're going to actually have to have softwares are going to have to build in their own monitoring systems, because what do I want to say? Like if I'm buying a product that charges me for API calls, I need some kind of fail-safe that says I don't go over budget. Like there's got to be some kind of monitoring that's going to be built in when software is doing its own thing and making decisions. So I think that's how SaaS is going to evolve. Either they're going to have to build it into their product, or other people are going to build products that monitor the use of these AI tools somehow. Because yeah, it's a little bit like letting Google Ads run with your budget. So you don't want that, right? So that's why one reason there's those parameters that are built in. I think that's going to get bigger. Yeah.
Do you have a meme for that?
The dude walking by, the dude walking by and looking over his shoulder at the girl, and there goes, what is it? There goes my budget, and then the other, yeah, I don't know actually. I don't have a meme for it. I don't have it. Nope.
Yeah, it sounds like a journey prompt. We could give it a go.
Yeah.
Joshua?
For me, I think it's UX. I think UX is going to fundamentally change with AI becoming easier to incorporate into your product experience, where you can either speak or describe in natural language the context in which you have a problem to solve. You don't have to go and toggle ons and offs and enter form fields and look and hunt around for settings and all this kind of stuff eventually. I mean, maybe we're years away from that, but UX, the landscape and how UX is thought about, particularly as it comes from, UX is linking the voice of the customer, the user's experience with the actual product experience in UI, right? It's the breadth of all of that. And when you translate, I want to get this done into, well, you don't actually need a button anymore. That starts to open up interesting innovations around interacting with humans that I don't think we've even seen what that's going to do yet to products. So my meme would be a completely black frame with a thought bubble. Hello?
Oh my gosh. Hello, world.
Is anyone there?
On the hello world.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks for taking that one. We do have, I think, 8 minutes left. So I do want to wrap it up with some rapid fire questions. These are really to get a sneak peek into not your personalities, your inner personalities. So 5 questions.
You don't want to know.
Be careful. Be careful.
We'll start with Joshua, then Tony, and then we'll end with Ari. All right? So
All right, go for it.
Joshua, your favorite guilty pleasure?
Hot chocolate.
Superpower for a day. How would you use it?
Breathing underwater.
And if you weren't doing this job, what's the most unusual job you'd be doing right now?
I think I'd be a professional ukulele solo artist.
I knew it. What's the weirdest or funniest habit you have that might surprise people?
I'm really into flow ropes, actually.
Never heard of that.
It's this really cool exercise that got popular during the pandemic. You just need a piece of rope.
Very cool. Very innovative. Fashion trend. What is one fashion trend you're glad has come back or hope never does?
Plaid. I'm glad it never went away.
Sorry, what was that?
Plaid.
Awesome. Thank you. Tony, you're next. Guilty pleasure.
My Black Phillip show featuring Patrice O'Neill. That's
very
my
cool.
favorite. Yeah.
Your superpower for a day, what would it be and how would you use it?
being able to say no to the cinnamon rolls at my favorite cafe.
Ooh. And if you weren't doing this job, what's the most unusual job you'd be doing right now?
I'd be a dog trainer. There's an epidemic of poorly trained dogs, and everyone's bringing them into restaurants and stuff, and that's got to stop. So that's
I would
what
do
I
that with you. Let's start a business.
All right. I'm not screwing around, man. All right, let's do it.
I'll come and visit. What about your funniest and weirdest habit that might surprise people?
It's weird. If you film me when I buy groceries, I walk in circles and there's no rhyme or reason, and it's just this weird thing where, like, I don't have a plan, and I bet I spend an hour in there, and if I had a plan, it'd take 5 minutes. It's ridiculous.
And your fashion trend, the one that you're glad is back, or hope never never dies.
Bald is back. Bald is back.
Good. Thank God.
Yeah.
Ari here. Yeah.
I couldn't go back if I tried.
All right. Thanks, Tony. Ari, your turn. What's your favorite guilty pleasure?
Yeah. I've seen Marvel TV shows. They're terrible at this point, but I can't stop watching them.
What's your superpower?
It's gotta be flight. I want to fly.
Is what?
Flight. I want to fly.
Very cool.
Seems like fun.
Yeah. And if you weren't doing this job, what would you be doing right now?
I have no idea. I
Interrogate
really don't know.
AI. Something to do with AI.
I'd probably, like, if it wasn't like tech startup stuff, I'd probably be failing miserably as a Twitch streamer. You know.
Okay. Your weirdest or funniest habit?
Yeah, going off with Tony, just saying, I try to memorize like subway stops. So like I try to figure out, if I'm going from one spot to the other, which car do I need to be in to be able to most efficiently leave the cars, right? And try to like calculate where their spot is. I was a lot better at it when I lived in New York because I used the subway a lot more often.
It's such a mess there. Yeah.
But yeah, it's my fun habit and hobby, I guess, is to memorize where the subway exits are so that I can position myself appropriately.
Very cool. And I know you love this question. What's the one fashion trend that you're glad has come back?
Don't care.
Come on.
No, like, I don't know. I guess baldness, because I don't have to get hair plugs.
Guys,
I don't know. Like, I'm wearing purple. I don't know. I like my idea on fashion. I always found it silly that people would like put Steve Jobs on a pedestal for wearing the same thing every day.
Yeah.
But then I just own a bunch of polo shirts and jeans, and it's just like I just change the color of my polo shirt.
It's all about practicality. That's a fashion statement. Yeah.
Right. You know, I'm Steve Jobs with color. I'm not Steve Jobs at all, but you know, in terms of fashion, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. All right. We are running out of time now, so we'll just wrap up here. I don't know about you, but I've truly enjoyed our first live session today. So I want to thank you guys for peeling back the layers and giving us a glimpse into what goes on under the hood of growth. So for the rest of our audience, if you've enjoyed Talking SaaSy, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. I think we're on YouTube too, right?
I hope so.
I hope so. Okay, well, we'll find out. Well, follow us anyway. It's the best way to catch future episodes, and it certainly motivates us to bring you sassier stories over time. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Fun.
It was fun.
Okay, I'm going to end the stream now.
Okay, bye.